Welcome back to the Fans of the Home Team podcast.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Miranda. This is a podcast that talks about the fun, the drama, and the effects that sports, teams, and athletes bring to the world, whether good or bad.
This is a podcast for people who care about sports in a deeper way than who won or who lost. It's for the people who love feel-good stories behind teams and athletes and realize that sports are more than a game.
All right, so we're back with a very special episode featuring Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs fan, Clayton Werner. You may remember our interview with Clay when we first started Fans of the Home Team, and now he's our first live podcast interview in this kind of format.
As I'm sure you all know, the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and they thought it'd be a brilliant idea to bring a Chiefs fan on to talk about their experience. I'm going to learn a lot. I never planned to experience the Cowboys Super Bowl in my life. So, Clay, going into the game, how confident were you that the Chiefs would be able to pull it off?
So this year, I felt pretty good. There was a feeling of, hey, we've been there a few times recently. Got a coach that does what he's doing. We've got best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. Like, even if he's hurt, we're going to be there. Even if it's a close game, we'll be in it. So there was a lot more confidence this year than I've had any of the other times recently.
Did you anticipate winning it all this season, or were you a roller coaster?
So I'm a homer, obviously.
Yeah,
it's all about right. So there was always a level of confidence for me for sure this year. It was hard not to buy into what the general talk of the world was, that, we've lost all of our assets. We've got too many rookies, lost Tyreek Hill, whatever. It was going to be a rebuild year, but I didn't expect anything less than at least a division, win the division again, make the playoffs, be competing at least around the divisional weekend or the AFC Championship weekend. That was a minimum for me. Making the Super Bowl made this season a success, and I think winning it was that extra cherry on top. I luckily got sports betting in my state this year, so I placed the future shooting for the season on the championship. Very happy to cash that out at the end of the year. But yeah, so there was a little confidence, but I don't know that I was always super confident.
When Tyreek left to go to Miami, what was your general feeling at that point about the direction of the team?
So like I said, there was a little bit of nerves. There was a little bit of hey, Tyreek is that guy that always bails Pat out. In the tough situations, there's specific games I can point to that he wouldn't have won without him. But at the same time, there was still that faith that Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And so we will figure something out. We still got Travis Kelsey. Still got some other superstar names on the defense. This stuff happens with good teams. They need to find a way over the course of their runs to figure out losing people. I mean, the Patriots did this for 15 years. There's moments that you just need to get over losing somebody.
Whenever, the Eagles were your matchup for the Super Bowl, was that a matchup you were looking forward to, a matchup you were nervous about, or in a matchup you were like, okay, we got this in the bag?
I don't think I ever thought we got this in the bag. They had a great defense and they had the best defensive line and all that stuff. And Patrick is maybe not 100% healthy and whatever it might be. So I did say a few times, I think it'll be close. I think it'll be 3 points either way. I didn't see a way we would get blown out because I looked at the whole season, and any time that the Eagles played a high-powered offense, those were the games they lost or were really close in. I thought that there was this small outside chance that we could blow them out if we just start clicking the right way and if we jump out to an early lead or something like that, because they hadn't played from behind all year. But no, I don't think it was ever we've got this in the bag 100%.
Every time there's a Chiefs game, we always see you somewhere at the stadium tailgating, whatever it might be, on the socials. What did you do for this game? Where'd you watch from? Who'd you watch with?
So my tailgate crew, my season ticket member crew of my family, my brothers and my friends, we went all out for the AFC Championship game. That was our last chance to do it in person on site. So we had to be a little bit more budget friendly this time around, but we got all of ourselves together, still the same group of people that we go to all the games, we sit by each other. We had our extended fantasy football league also join us, plus all the significant others. We had probably 16, 17 people. It's pretty good. And then we actually made a Super Bowl party, a dip party, basically. Everybody just brought something different, their own kind of appetizer thing. And yeah, it was just kind of potluck. It was great. And then for after the game, if things had gone well, which they did, the celebratory stuff too. We got some champagne and then some cigars and had to celebrate it right too.
After the first half, how are you feeling since it was a very competitive game and it was just back and forth on the offense? Like I think most people anticipated. So how are you feeling when they were going into the locker room?
So right before halftime is when Mahomes re-injured his ankle, apparently. There was some nerves. That was probably my lowest point of the game. But seeing him jog off, knowing that it was only 10 points, which is exactly the same deficit we came back from in our last Super Bowl win, knowing that he's done this multiple times, double-digit playoff win, I didn't think it was over. I actually doubled down on my bet. At halftime, we had a little conversation. Everybody was, getting nervous. And I said, every year Mahomes has a couple of what we call over my dead body games. He'll lay himself out parallel. He'll do whatever he needs to do. Is the rest of the team going to be able to get there too? We don't know, but there's 20-minute halftime. There's a little time to get him feeling right and get him stretched out and whatever. And I think we'll still be in it at the end. So I was right.
For the money.
For going down on your bet.
Yeah.
That was a ridiculous line. Chiefs plus 1.5. Come on.
Yeah.
Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes, an underdog? No way.
At halftime, the Eagles, I think, moved up to minus 480 or something like that. On all the betting sites, it was over. So I was like, let's just try this out. Let's see what we can do.
I did not realize there was minus 480 for Eagles money line at halftime. That's unreal. Again, they had to have lost money on that shit. I can't imagine they didn't. That's crazy. We got a couple of, what are these called? I don't know. A couple
Play
of
action
deeper
question?
play action, whatever. How'd you feel about the Dallas Goedert catch call?
I like Dallas Goedert. I play him with Dallas every year. Like, I think it was a good catch. I think it was a questionable catch. I think it should have been overturned with the review just based off the other calls earlier in the game. I think, with Devontae Smith's call being called out of bounds where he didn't possess that one all the way through before getting his feet in. I think that there was another one later on the Chiefs side. That was a consistency issue for me. This whole game was very well called, in my opinion. And I know that might sound like a bunch of bullshit to a bunch of people who are upset about officiating, but I don't think officiating in any way really affected the outcome of the game. There was a couple of those types of calls both ways where it was questionable, but not enough to really argue it or make it a big deal, in my opinion.
Hot takes from Clay.
I know. I don't even want to ask the next question.
You have to ask it.
I
You have to ask it.
already know what's coming. There's so many opinions on this, and there's going to be so many opinions on it. And I don't think it necessarily affected the outcome of the game either. But what are your thoughts on the holding call?
I've watched every angle of it online, obviously. I understand the frustration. I have major respect for James Bradbury for just owning it and being like, I held. If you go back in the first quarter, there was a hold on Juju from James Bradbury the exact same way that wasn't called. And that's where he got this idea that, like, hey, they're going to let me get away with this. We're in the fourth quarter. The officiating was screwed up early. I think they made the right call. If they wouldn't have called it, I would have been like, oh, that was a holding, but I also don't think I would have claimed that was a change of the game. The play would have been to let him score there and put as much time left on the clock because of that game. So honestly, it was kind of bad coaching in my opinion to even think hey, we should be holding here. Yeah, we're still in field goal range. That score ends up still being 38-35. It just leaves a little bit more time for the Eagles to respond. But our defense was clicking. I don't think it actually put a different result on the board other than just maybe leaving a little bit more time for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
I didn't even think about that. So just let them, because your mindset's not we should definitely let them score here with less than 2 minutes in the Super Bowl.
See it again with the Jared McKinnon run that he slides himself down at the one where they ended up going, okay, hey, we should let them score. And they all let up. And that told McKinnon, okay, they're letting me score. I should probably go down. And that allowed us to kneel it out in that game-winning field goal. They got the right call in a little bit later. But I think that with that much time on the clock, that probably would have been the move. But again, that's an impossible thing to do in the moment.
I can't imagine sliding on the one about the score in the Super Bowl either.
Yeah, I feel like that's hard. And I also think people's arguments oh, the holding call changed that. That's so false because there's 3 3/4 quarters that things could have happened. You can't make that argument that it would have changed the entire outcome of the game because it makes no sense.
And I go back to the Miles Sanders fumble that Nick Bolton returned for a touchdown. I think that was definitely the wrong call. And I mean, that's a whole other touchdown on the board right there. So there's so many other moments that you can point and choose. I think that this one just gets the attention it's getting because of the time on the clock. And
yep, exactly.
I think there's a lot more argument if James Bradbury doesn't do what he does after the game and say, hey, on me, I held him. I thought I could get away with it and I couldn't, which classy move, respect on that. And that's why I'm not even stressed about having this argument anymore. I've been on the other side of it watching games my whole life of like, oh, the refs help out the favorite team, right?
Yeah.
Like so many Patriots games I've said after the game, the refs help, whatever. Oh, and I mean, I've done it in the last year or two. There's been a few games I've been like, the Bengals lost in 21, and there were stats to back that up. That was the worst called game in the league that year. So it happens. I don't want to say it doesn't happen, but you also can't just like change the rules because there's a couple minutes left in the game. It's still game. And like, you can't just be like, oh, this might decide the Super Bowl. I'm not going to call something. Like, it's just not how their job works. So,
Right. It probably was overall a better called playoff game than we've seen this playoffs anyway. There's been a lot more controversy around some other games. So,
and the head official, Carl Chevers, is the like Chief fans' most hated official. He was the one that we booed at the Raiders game to the point of crying. There's definitely some animosity from Chiefs fans towards him. So to have us all be like, overall a decently called game, I think that says a little something.
Yeah, they showed who's refereeing. My dad's like, oh, this guy looks really so angry. And he's like, this is going to be a crapshoot or whatever dads say. And I was just like, okay.
Al is pissed.
Like, everyone hates
Yeah,
Grant
people
Pittsburgh.
really hate that man. I feel so bad.
Ref should have to do press conferences at the end of games, I think.
Back that. I'll agree with that. I back that.
I like that idea. NFL, free idea.
They do that little report, but that report doesn't mean anything.
No, they should just stand in front of a crowd and go over every play.
Just a live stream of the ref recapping their fault for every football game. Could you imagine the fans in the comments?
Yeah.
That would be good content.
It would be. I don't think the NFL cares for that content, though. I think they're
No.
doing okay.
They're fine. Whatever. Clay, how did it feel after you guys won? Was it different than the first time?
So the first time, I had only ever known playoff losses. I'd only seen my team in the playoffs 4 or 5 times in my life. We hadn't been back to the AFC Championship game in my lifetime. So just making it that until the Patriots lost overtime to Tom Brady a few years back, 2018. And I was in the building for that one. That was my first ever NFL game. So then beating the Titans the next year, going to the Super Bowl, all those comebacks, and then winning the Super Bowl, there was so much emotion. I never thought I was going to see this in my life. Chiefs were bottom of the barrel for so long. And I mean, there were tears. It was happy tears, but it was like, it was just one of the greatest things in my life. Now, I don't want to say it feels like expected or anything like that. I still want to be grateful for what I'm getting out of my team because I do remember so many dark years, but this time was just pure happiness. That pressure of not having reached that mountaintop is gone. So now, we've gotten Super Bowls and everything here on out is extra bonuses. Now I'm rooting for Patrick Mahomes's legacy more than anything. I want him to get in the conversation for greatest of all time. I don't think he's there yet. I love the people that say he is. That's awesome. It's only been 5 years of playing. We can slow down a little bit, but I think we'll get there. Maybe I'm in a minority thinking this way, and there's a lot of people I know that expect this every year now, but I do kind of go back to like that Andy Renard quote, right? Like, the good old days, like knowing that I'm in them.
This gives me hope that I shouldn't have whatsoever.
Soak it in because I got 2 Super Bowl wins and then my team has been shitty for the last decade, but it's fine.
And Saquon's coming to Kansas City next year, Miranda. You can come with him.
Oh, you heard it here first, folks.
No.
Is that an
Oh,
actual
God.
prediction?
I literally will have nobody on that fucking team if he leaves. So what am I even rooting for?
It was on the latest Gridiron, whatever, Bleacher Report, Gridiron show, their little cartoon deal. So I was like,
Yeah, they're going to let
That's-
Saquon leave and then pay Daniel Jones $35 million a year.
I love Isaiah Pacheco. He can keep his role
Yes.
forever. So
Yeah, he's great. He was one of my favorite players to watch in the league this year. He
Yeah,
was
he's awesome.
so entertaining.
Angrier than anybody I've ever seen. Just
What happened to Clyde? Is he just
Yeah.
not good? Like, what happened?
the reason he got drafted is they consulted Patrick and said, hey, what do you want this year? What do you want this year? We knew that we were losing other backs. So he said he wanted him. I don't know that there was ever a good scheme fit for Clyde. He was a record-breaking receiving back out of college, and we just didn't throw him the ball. Our offensive line is really young. I mean, that's why we lost the game to Tampa between injuries and youth. There was kind of no chance in that one. That game didn't expect to win from the get-go, but was hopeful, but didn't expect it just because we were so injured up front. And we've been just rebuilding the offensive line for the last couple of years. So Clyde's, I think, actually been improving the last 2 years or so. But then when he got hurt this year, that just really opened the door up for Pacheco to do his thing. And he took full advantage of his opportunity. And I think it became a thing now. Clyde's deal's almost up. So I think that they're looking to protect their assets and to get him moved. It's what I'm going to just guess when they think that they found the next replacement for him. I think he's going to have a great career somewhere else where they actually can scheme for him a little bit better. And it's not so much of a wide receiver focused offense.
Oh, perfect for the Giants since their wide receiver one is Richie James.
I couldn't even name you or anyone in our fucking depth chart.
You can't afford Clyde with Daniel and
This is
Penny's
not about
contracts.
how shitty the Giants are going to be forever. This is about the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs, okay? Okay, I guess, obviously, outside of winning the game, what was your favorite part and memory of this specific Super Bowl?
I just really appreciated being with my family, with my friends. So back at the last one, I was living in North Carolina. I watched with a couple friends from work, but I had to keep my emotions somewhat in check. I had a lot of people in the room that they were just at a Super Bowl party to be at a Super Bowl party. I had a couple people that had formerly worked for the Chiefs, actually, so they had like a little bit of a dog in the fight, but they also did not just have the same, 20 plus years of just like, this is my team and living and breathing this. So this one, I think that that's really what stands out to me is watching with my two brothers, all of our friends that we do tailgate with every week and sit with, and just, really making this memorable in a Chiefs fandom way.
Yeah, that's a little different than hanging out with some work friends. What do you think the Chiefs need to do to continue this, to turn it into a dynasty?
So they're really set up right now, knock on wood, that nothing happens, but Patrick Mahomes' contract is perfect. Every year they just convert him to signing bonus and they clear up millions of dollars of cap. They have a 12+ cap right now. Half our starters are rookies. It's hard to not be like, oh, we need another superstar receiver or something like that, but we didn't need it this year. We figured it out. I mean, Juju is good. I don't know that he's a number one on most teams in the league. There's guys out there that I'd love to go get. I'd love to go get DeAndre Hopkins in a trade or something like that, but, who wouldn't? I think the most important thing is just health and then keeping the coaching staff and the players in agreement. I think that was a little bit of our issue last year when we lost to the Bengals. There was a lot of rumors about turmoil in the locker room between Bieniemy and Tyreek and Patrick Mahomes and whoever else. I think one of the biggest strengths of the Chiefs right now is there's not a lot of ego. There's a couple, face of the league type characters. Travis Kelce's got, he'll say what he wants to say or whatever, but there's not really like that guy that feels like the diva of the team or anything like that anymore. I think that could have been Tyreek a year or two ago, maybe, but and Tyrann Mathieu, like there's been guys that could have been called that over the last couple of years, but right now there's not. And so basically they'll just keep it business and keep doing what we're doing. And I think we feel pretty good and keep hitting on those 7th-round picks like Pacheco. Did great.
Last but certainly not least question. Saw you went to the parade yesterday. How was that? Kelsey and I have never experienced celebration parade. So I'm so fascinated by it.
I would just do it very differently. In my standard fashion, I had some bad luck in the morning. So I parked. We walked 35 minutes down to the rally site 4 hours before the parade started. It was like 39 degrees. I was underdressed because the weather had said it was going to be 60. I'm freezing cold, whatever. There's guys already falling over, cutting their face on the cement, at 9 a.m. Just party. My brother calls me and says he was parked next to me and that they had just posted signs in the lot we parked in, which were not there before, saying that they were going to start towing. So I asked him to stay with my car so I didn't get towed. And we started walking back. Halfway back, he said a second patrol car came up to him and said there were too many people they weren't going to tow. So I risked it, but I was worried all day about my car being towed. We met up with a group along the parade route. We decided to actually focus on the parade instead of the rally, which then put us on the wrong side of the fence for getting back to the rally. So I couldn't see anything from the rally. I ended up just kind of walking and listening instead of watching. So all those viral clips, I saw them on social media, even though within 500 yards of the stage, like I couldn't see them in person. So I think if I'm lucky enough to get this opportunity again, I'll just post up and watch the rally and skip the parade. But I got some interaction with some of the guys and team. Jarek McKinnon came up right to our group along the route. So yeah, there's definitely some good moments. I've got my handful of confetti I'm going to save. Like, there's memorable stuff, but my ankle hurt. I walked 8 miles yesterday. And then I had to like leave and then turn around and come right back downtown for a concert last night. So I'm a zombie. I'm dead today, but I don't want to say it wasn't worth it, but it was just a long day.
That's a Clay story if I've ever heard one.
That's tame for my stories typically, but yeah, it was it was a good day.
Let's do our draft. So at the end of episodes, we do a little draft. This draft, we're going to go favorite NFL teams, and Clay's going to start, and then I'm going to go because I let Miranda go first last time. And then you're going last, Miranda.
Okay,
Thank God I have a backup. Who's
Alright,
your number one, Clay?
Kansas City Chiefs probably. I think I'm gonna get tattooed on my arm in the next couple weeks.
Might as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Cowboys. I'm not getting a tattoo.
I'm going to go Giants. Also, will never be getting a Giants tattoo either. Too up and down.
Oh, man, this is where it gets tough. So I actually grew up a Titans fan, like a huge Titans fan. They were always my backup team until I went to a game in person, Chiefs versus Titans back in 2019. I was wearing a Chiefs jersey because they are my number one. And man, their fans were the meanest away fans I've ever experienced. I think that there was definitely some animosity from recent matches with them and whatever, and they had a great comeback win that day, but that was tough. I think because it is the only other jersey I own is a Steve McNair jersey, the only non-Chiefs jersey I own. I've got other memorabilia, so I'm going to have to go with Titans, but it's a really tough number 2 for me at this point.
Would not have guessed they were mean. I thought Nashville was just vibes.
Yeah, when Derek and I went to the Stadium Series Lightning Predators, their fans were not nice. Like our direct fans around us were nice, but some of the others, and they sang their goal song, and it was like, "You suck. You suck." And I was like, what is this?
I
So
think
that's
the other thing that bugged me is they were mostly silent until they came back in, and then it was just all hell
Sounds
broke loose. And for me, one of the things that I love the most about Chiefs fans is they're mostly classy. Our atmosphere is always very good. There's going to be your fair share of shit talking stands and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a game. As long as you're there to watch football, drink beer, eat barbecue, and have a good time, it doesn't really matter what jersey you're wearing. So I think that's where I really got rubbed the wrong way with their fan base.
I can't believe it. That honestly shocks me. Super weird. I am going to go with the team that I was cheated out of by my father. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. The story is, so when I was a kid, I asked for a Carson Palmer jersey after he got drafted because my birthday's right after the draft. We lived in Ohio, and they claimed that I asked for a color that they didn't have. And I'm like, okay, the number 1 draft pick overall, you couldn't find a specific color. Sure, Dad, sure. So then the next season, I became a Cowboys fan. So here we are.
There
So,
you go.
Honestly, I had Bengals as number 2. So
Good.
because of Joe Burrow. So you stole it.
Brr.
So I have to go with my other team. And this is more current. And I don't really have reasoning. I just love Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. And I guess it's another New York team.
The Bills would actually probably be on my list, despite the fact that they're going to be one of the Chiefs' biggest rivals for the next few years. When we have hosted them, it's the exact opposite. Their fans have been fantastic. They're just a good, like, rowdy fan base. Even on the road, even when they win, it's like, hey, we'll see you again in January type stuff. And it's competitive, fun shit talking, not just bullshit talking. So,
Yeah.
no, it's great. And then Josh Allen's impossible not to love. They can play good football. They got good people. That's a great choice. In a similar vein, this is going to probably upset a lot of other Chiefs fans, but I like the Chargers. They're in our division, which is crazy to say a division rival, but I'm a social media guy. They have the best social media in the league up there with the Bills. Chiefs are honestly in the kind of tops for me too. They just have a very different approach to it. Justin Herbert is another humble, like, solid player. I think there's a level of I'm not really threatened by him, honestly, because they're going to try to
Yeah.
get up at some point. So yeah, I guess I'm happy the Chargers are probably my top 5, even though that's probably a wrong answer for a lot of Chiefs fans.
The Chargers have great social media, and they have some really likable guys on the team, too. They're on my backup list.
Yeah,
So,
the Chargers were my number 1 backups.
I'm going to go a little hometown. My family's a big Lions fan, so by default, they go here at number 3 just because I've been indoctrinated into trying to root for them on Thanksgiving. So,
Go ahead and bump it up, Kelsey. Just put them in number 1. Like, you just need to switch over because they're on there.
my uncle was a Cowboys fan, and right before they started winning Super Bowls in the 70s, he switched to the Lions from the Cowboys. And then the Cowboys were actually good, but he had already switched to the Lions fan. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make the same mistake. But
I was going to say, that's some bad luck right there.
To root for the Cowboys and the Lions in your lifetime? Yeah,
No,
I agree.
but then to switch and then the Cowboys are good.
Yeah, I've been trying to switch, but it doesn't happen. They're still not good. So whatever. Here we are.
Here we are, struggling. So my number 3, and I knew Kelsey wasn't going to pick this team because she hates their quarterbacks, but
Do not pick the Vikings.
it's the Vikings. I love the Vikings. I became a Vikings fan when Dalvin Cook went to the Vikings because Dalvin Cook was my favorite player to watch at FSU, and I was super excited when he got drafted to the Vikings. I think that they have a really great team. Outside, the Kirk Cousins doesn't bother me like he bothers some people. Entertaining young team, Justin Jefferson. I like their colors.
My mom was a huge Vikings fan, so I grew up kind of liking them. They've never really done anything that hurt my feelings, so that's kind of I would have probably picked them too. I mean, Cousins decide, but the rest of the team's pretty interesting to watch. And
I agree.
I have family in Minneapolis too, so it's kind of tough.
I think that Kirk Cousins is so funny because I just think it's like just some guy just like walked out onto the field and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be their quarterback. I just think it's ridiculous that that man is their quarterback.
I've got him directly in the middle. Like, he's gonna lose you games, he's gonna win you games. He's there. I think he's an all-time great money earner. Like, he's figured out a system
For himself.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
good.
for sure.
He's feeling.
Get your money.
I also I always forget this, but I interviewed with the Minnesota Vikings as well.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Like, I literally went out there and saw their new facility. It was gorgeous. Obviously didn't get the job because here we are. Not that I don't know if I could survive the cold in Minnesota, but anyway, yeah, no. So yeah, I interviewed there. Not that that would ever be a reason why I would pick a team, but
Minneapolis is a good city too. I really like that. Was other than the snow. It's just getting soft because most of my teams have gotten taken as well.
Not me. My teams must be trash.
I think I have to switch because I picked like 3 AFC teams in a row. So I think I'm going to again have to just go with my former local team. I lived in North Carolina for a couple of years. I made it to a home Carolina Panthers game. They're not a great team, but they did have great fans. I was in an away team jersey. They were handing me Jell-O shots as I walked in the parking lot. They were fun. They have cool colors. Like, I don't know.
yeah.
I used to like watching Cam Newton when he was the thing. I hope that eventually they're good again because I kind of hate the rest of that division. So, yeah, I guess I'll last for the Carolina.
That's solid. They're my favorite team in that division too, because I hate that division. Those other teams in there, they're gross.
Literally disgust.
Great colors.
Yeah, great colors and even their logo too. I feel like it's
Fire. My number 4 pick, this is a recent development for me. We're staying in the NFC North. I'm going with the Chicago Bears. I think I'm just intrigued at the direction the Bears are going. Despite being a Michigan fan, I think Justin Fields is electric. I really do like watching him attempt to play behind that offensive line. They have a shit ton of cap space. They should be able to trade this number 1 pick back once, if not twice, during the draft. So I'm interested to see where they go.
big Bears fan over here.
Huge Bears fan. Duh, Bears.
I feel like that's pretty solid. I knew you were going to pick them, so that's why I didn't even have them on my list.
Appreciate it.
Obviously, I like the Manning brothers, so I used to like Peyton Manning, and then I liked Andrew Luck, so I'm picking the Indianapolis Colts. I would not necessarily pick them now, but like I said, we have some slim pickings here, and I just feel like they're a team that's just kind of been irrelevant for a while, so like, why not?
They're gross. And I'm glad you took them. And I grew up as a Colts fan.
Oh,
'cause
wow.
We grew up on the border, so they were Colts fans till Peyton left. Then I guess they pieced out. But
I don't blame them.
yeah, it's kind of sad after that.
My last team, I'm going to take the Dolphins.
Ooh.
They've done a lot of winning big games that have helped the Chiefs in the last few years. The famous I'm calling 2 games when the Chiefs were playing the Chargers and the Dolphins upset the Patriots a few years back, got us that 1 seed. I don't know, there's a few other games. They've got a lot of young stars that are fun. I got mixed feelings around Tyreek Hill, but I love Jalen Waddle. I love Mike Gesicki. I'm thinking Tua's about done, so they need a new quarterback. But also touring their facilities twice in grad school. They're just a well-run organization. They're really awesome. I like their colors. I love their marketing and social media. So it's kind of like a lot of external factors, but yeah, I guess I gotta put them on my list. I just find it tough to dislike the Dolphins. So
We're in the 5th round, so anything goes at this point. My 5th round pick, no one took any of my teams, which is probably a sign of the team I
Wow.
chose. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why are you rolling your eyes, Miranda, first of all?
Oh, that team is besides Trevor Lawrence.
They have a bright future in the AFC. I predicted they'd go to the AFC Championship next year on last week's pod. And I'm really here for the growth of the Jaguars because of what Urban Meyer did to them. I just want him to sit there and be embarrassed about what he did to this team. So that's why I'm picking them.
The sole reason I don't like the Jacksonville Jaguars is because they're always like, Duval! And it's the most fucking annoying thing ever. And I just...
Yeah.
It's endearing. I like it.
I'll live for Jacksonville Jaguars. Jason Mendoza post. Like, literally, that's it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The only positive association. My last pick, I actually, there's reasoning behind it, but I feel like it's NFC, whatever, is the San Francisco 49ers.
Ew.
And it's literally because, wish you won't be there, but Jimmy Garoppolo and then Christian McCaffrey. That's the only reason.
They're
And
like
they
third
were-
string quarterback.
And I was rooting for them against the Eagles.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like,
By default, yes, we were.
yeah, so I feel like they're gonna, depending on what happens with their quarterback situation, they might be in the mix and they might be the only option to go against the Eagles. So might as well be a fan of them because our teams aren't going to do anything.
No, they are not. That's fair.
So yeah, that's
Wow. All right, I'm going to recap. Clay's teams, the Chiefs, Titans, Chargers, Panthers, Dolphins. My teams, Cowboys, Bengals, Lions, Bears, and Jaguars. And Miranda's, Giants, Bills, Vikings, Colts, 49ers. That's the worst I've ever seen. So, worst group of 5 teams ever. Is
no,
Miranda's.
yours is the worst. Besides the Bengals, which is the team I wanted, every single other makes me want to puke. And I feel like your list progressively just gets worse.
Cool. Well, Clay, I think we both liked your list. So, congrats, I guess.
Hey,
Good job. Because I also have the Titans on my original list too. And I had to kick them.
I would have taken 2 of Miranda's team, so I'd Kelsey a year.
No, I know. I understand. I understand. This happens a lot.
Fine when nobody else when you don't have to pick any backup team.
Yeah, I know. I knew what's happening.
Draft strategy doesn't look that different from her fantasy draft strategy. They're just taking who nobody wanted.
Yeah, but not the very next way.
I made the playoffs this year, buddy. Barely, but I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's rude. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We're changing up our schedule a little bit and posting a new podcast every other week so we can focus on creating more social media content for each episode. So we'll be back March 8th.
As always, check out our link tree, which you can find in the description of this episode. This is your one-stop shop for all of our social media accounts. And then you can also sign up to share your fandom story like we did with Clay today. If your team has won the Super Bowl, come on.
If they haven't, I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
So,
That's true. We're both here.
and so you don't miss any of the upcoming podcasts, subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening on: Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and more.
Thank you again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.